Welcome back. In this lecture, we're going to talk about checkboxes, and of course, from the beginning, let's talk about checkboxes. And you know what checkboxes are? They're just boxes which you can tick, and multiple boxes you can check, and they just result in they're a very good form of taking input from the user. So they're very basic, but they're very useful, and we use them a lot. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it here because this is same in almost all applications, and this is same as well. So that's good. Now we're done here. Now let's get to the real work. Of course, the main window title, which could be checkboxes. Yay. Then we're going to resize it. Well, let's do it 1280 by 720 again. Now we have resized it to 1280 and 720. Now, of course, I told you about layouts, and we're going to use a layout again. Just think of it as a page where you can only write in, vertical ways. And now let's make a checkbox, and checkbox is pretty easily made. Let's make our first checkbox. Check1 is equal to q checkbox. Q checkbox is what lets us make a checkbox. Let's say pick up groceries. So let's just view this and let's see if it actually works. So layout dot add widget, which is a check1, and then you just make a new widget, which is Q widget, and in that widget you set its layout to our layout, and then you set self.set central widget, which is the widget that we made just now. Now, of course, the same thing we do every time at the end of the application. We show the application. So let's run this checkboxes.py. As you can see, here's the checkbox, but it's useless. We can't do anything with it. So let's add some more checkboxes and make just a thing that keeps track of all of our things that we have done in our program. So checkbox 1. But what happens? How do we connect this to a function? Now, in the last lecture, we used self. We made sure that the label was in the context of our class. We can do another thing. I told you about lambda expressions. We can use lambda expressions and pass the check from there to our function, and that's very easy as well, because lambda expression, I'll show you why it is important and why we can't use a simple function here. If I pass in a simple function, let's write that function as well. Self dot something checked, and as you can see here, let's define that function something checked self and another parameter, which I will talk about. We're going to send. So let's just print what s is. Print s.text. As you'll see that I want to pass this s right here, this thing, check here. I don't want to use self.check1. I want to pass it right here. So what do? Well, this thing right here just accepts function as a function. If I call it, this will run. I don't want that. So how lambda comes here in when I declare it as a lambda. As you know, this will be like this thing will return a variable in a sense that is of course anonymous, but this thing will itself become a function. It's like calling a function inside a function. And here you can just give it check1. There you go. And it'll work just fine. So let's run this and see if it actually works. If I pick up groceries, it'll pick up groceries. That's it. That's all it does. So it's pretty simple. And what else can we do here? Well, we have to call this function and this function will give us what our checkbox is made up of. Pick up groceries. It's not very fun application, is it? So we're gonna add more functionality to it. Let's add another checkbox. Write code every day. And we do the same thing here, check1.toggle.connect, and we can use the same function. Pretty cool stuff. Sorry, it's check2.toggle.connect. Now I want to do more. I didn't tell you the whole thing here, so let me show you what else we can do here with this thing, this object check1 right here. When something is checked, I can do a lot more than just show its text. I can also show something. It also has a boolean s dot. I can call this anything right here. So let's say I call it check. Check dot is checked is a method that will give me a boolean whether something is checked or not. So if I pick up groceries, well, this is true, as you can see, tick and true. If I do this, this is false. As you can see, this can be used in a lot of ways. So we can use this in a meaningful way by keeping track of all the things that we add. So how do we do that? Well, we can keep a list of check the stuff. Whatever is checked, we can keep it in a list. And how do we do that? Well, for example, whenever something is checked, we can add it to this list. And I will make this self dot so I can access this here as well. So I add stuff to it whenever it's checked. So self dot checked stuff dot append. How do we add to the end of it? Well, you know, check dot text, and I print that thing. Or I can add it to the label. Let's call it task string, and then just, you know, make it equal to that. We have appended it. Let's just print it for now and see it later. We can do a lot more than this, but self dot checked stuff. Now we have added this checked stuff here, and we can do a lot of stuff here. If I pick up groceries, I just keep on adding it, but it just keeps on growing, and even if whatever happens, it just adds it to it. We don't want that. So we make this more intelligent. And how do we do that? Well, whenever a false is clicked, this thing is removed. So whenever I click, of course, for now it just adds up everything. But what I want to do is whenever it is false, I want to remove this. Whenever it is true, then I want to add it. So this will be added when it's false. When it's true, sorry. And if it is actually false, we do something else. What we do is, well, we use a function called filter function. Filter function takes in a lambda expression, and we're filtering a list. And how it filters a list, it takes a list, and you give him a criteria that, okay, for example, I'm filtering a list and of numbers, and I want to filter in such a way that I only get 5 back, only get the numbers which are equal to 5. So how we do that is that it goes over whole, it takes 2 parameters. First, your lambda expression, and second is the list. Self dot checked stuff goes through the list. This is the functionality that goes through it, and it says I take in one thing at a time, and I check if that stuff is not equal to the text that we're talking about, whatever you clicked, of course. And everything, for example, pick up groceries, whenever I clicked and it turned off, the button turned off, I want everything except pick up groceries in my list, in my final list. And you have to convert this thing into a list. It will not be a list. You use the list method, just like a string method, to convert anything into a string, which can be converted into a string. And that's basically it. Oh, wait a minute, we have to update the checked stuff variable which contains our list. Now as far as this is concerned, it is done, but when it is true, we want it to do this. We want it to append our text. Without thinking, just append it. And that's basically it. One more thing we have to do is we have to show it on the screen. Right now, let's say I just, right now I just print self.checked stuff. No big deal. It becomes empty after that. And I've added 2 checkboxes here. As I told you before, we have not added it to the widget. As you can see, it works just fine. Now we have to print it on the screen. We have to make a layout and then add that layout. So self.layout I'm going to do here. Self.label, excuse me. And that label will be just QLabel, as you know how to make a label. And you have not selected anything. Now what I want to do, I want to update stuff. I want to update my task string, which is showing me all the strings here. So we'll keep track of our string. In the beginning, of course, it's empty, and then we run a for loop, and we just for a task in self.checked stuff, we loop through this whole thing. As you know, this loop right here, we want to loop through this whole thing, and what we want to do is we want to update this task string, concatenate it with this task, and we add of course a \n here, which shows that we are actually going the next line after that. Now when this is done, we just update the that's it. We can update the task string right here. And of course we have not added it to the widget here. We created the label, but we have not added it to the layout. So and that's it. Self.label says you have not selected anything. Write code every day, pick up groceries, write code every day. Whatever you do, it will work just fine. So this was an intro to checkboxes, and of course you will write all of this stuff. You will not write this, you will just, as I said, you will just write it, you will just drag and drop in Qt Designer, which we'll learn about in this section, and that's about it. You will write these functions yourself though. This is where the main programming happens. So I'll see you in the next one, where we'll talk about radio buttons, and soon it'll be all good and you'll know how to build graphical user interfaces in Python.